Yeah, it's SpoFi Nation. Welcome to episode 3 of the Tee Sheet, the Byron Nelson version of the Tee Sheet, where we're going to be previewing everything coming up this weekend. We're going to go over a little recap from the Wells Fargo Championship last weekend. But first things first, we're running a giveaway on our Twitter at SpoFi HQ. It's not golf related, but if you guys are here and you're following us, we appreciate it. And you're obviously invested a little bit already. So head over to our Twitter at SpoFi HQ. Get in on the giveaway. We have over $200 worth of value we're giving away there. But now let's jump right into golf. We'll do a little bit of a recap, T-Philly. I'll toss it over to you to go there. But also, one thing I want to let you know before we go, Doc Redman has a little bit of a pattern with him, okay? He misses the cut, he makes the cut. He misses, he makes. Well, he missed the cut last week, so you know what's coming this weekend. Well, just a little bit of a teaser for my outright this week. But T-Philly, what's good, man? What's going on?
He's going to have to need to do it. I don't know if he's going to be in the field for next week for the PGA Championship, Kiawah Island. But, yeah, I mean, this is kind of the primer for the PGA Championship next week. Let's get ready. Wells Fargo lost a few units this week. It was just kind of a weird tournament. Tough course. You saw guys I know Rob Oppenheim had a matchup against KJ Choi, and Friday he was up 2 going into the 17th hole, double bogey to lose. So it was tough course. We did almost have an outright knocking on the door, man. I mean, Abraham Ancer is right there. And like I said last week, that Green Mile, it's not over till it's over. And Rory, he did his best to give it to us. Almost found the creek on his drive on 18 up 2. And he actually ended up taking a drop. It was a weird spot. He could have kind of played it back over the creek into the fairway or played it up towards the stands and ended up taking the drop, put an absolute missile of an 8-iron on the top shelf of the green that I think if he was on the bottom shelf, that's a tough 2-putt. So we would have been looking at a playoff. But, I mean, Rory broke out a little bit of Rory and did his thing, but that's okay. We did have a couple other guys knocking on the door: Aaron Wise, Jason Kokrak, Cameron Tringali. But man,
getting closer to getting back on track with those outrights.
Exactly. I would have loved to see Ancer do it. That he's special. I mean, he is a guy that, again, like I said, I think I said in this the first episode, but he has future pedigree. He is solid. But yeah, we're on to the Byron Nelson. We got TP. Go ahead.
No, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Another week, another chance to get back in the outright wins column, but also to get right with the model. So as the time of listening this, the SpoFi model is updated for this week. And so if you guys are in the Discord, if you follow on Twitter, you'll be able to use that model, plug in the matchups that are available to you, use what we're using to get some of the best value plays that are out there and available to you. So head to the Discord, head to Twitter, and plug in your plays for this week, which, as you mentioned, the AT&T Byron Nelson. So preview that for us a little bit, Tyler. What are we looking for?
Yeah, so brand new course to the PGA Tour is TPC Craig Ranch. No more Trinity Forest. I know before that they were with Trinity Forest the last couple of years for the Byron Nelson. A couple of years before that was like the Four Seasons. But yeah, it's a debutante course. Actually hosted a nationwide championship in 2008, 2012. Basically, if you're not familiar with that, that's the equivalent to the Korn Ferry Tour now. But it's 7,400 yards, par 71. Maybe the PGA official site, whenever I was looking up the course, said more info to come about Craig Ranch. So didn't even really have anything. I had to look at like the PGA brochure to see yardage and par equivalent. But from everything that I could find, a couple drivable par 4s, short par 5s, very gettable in 2, but longer par 3s. So not necessarily going to have to find guys that are, really long off the tee, but guys that are, good with the long irons, because I'd expect them to have a couple long irons into some of these par 5s and also going to come into handy with the longer par 3s. But
yeah, that's a good point. That's a quick question for you. So on these courses where it's short par 5s, long par 3s, do you look specifically for guys who are a little bit more consistent with that mid to long range game because they'll be using it more.
Yeah, exactly. More so for outrights whenever I'm looking at, I'm just kind of keeping that in the back of my mind. Like, for instance, if Colin Morikawa was in the field, like that'd be a guy I'd want to target if long iron, was going to be playing a factor on the course. But yeah, definitely something to, take into account, especially for outrights, at least for the matchup wise. Everything's just built in, everything's pre-calculated out into that. So I don't really account for that during, matchups. But especially if you're playing, some DFS, if you're using tools like Fantasy National, where you can kind of go in, create your own model, weight it based on, strokes gained approach over 200 yards or whatever. Definitely something to consider this week, especially with no course history. And yeah, I mean, this course should get absolutely shredded. I wouldn't be surprised to see, I think I saw that they got 2.5 inches of rain the last couple of nights. So of course, it's going to be super soft. Guys are going to go super low. I wouldn't be surprised to see, minus 20, minus 25 be the winning score this week. It'll be a nice little confidence.
That's just unbelievable.
I know. What's crazy is I'll flip on like the Golf Channel overnight and see some of these Euro Tour events where they're just playing like basically like municipal courses and they're like minus 27, like minus 30. It's just crazy. But should be a nice little confidence boost for the people that are electing to play leading into the PGA Championship next week.
So mentioning the PGA Championship next week, does that affect how guys play the week prior, knowing that this is sort of a tune-up or a get-right spot? Does that will that have any effect on them? Not necessarily in the betting sense, but just mindset going into it.
Yeah, so what you'll see as far as like the field, like this field's going to be pretty different compared to what the field was last week. You'll see two different schools of thoughts. One where the guys like to play 2 weeks before, take the week off, go out, to the site for the PGA Championship a little early, get a couple rounds in, things like that. Or, take the 2 week off before tournament and then play the week before, then go straight to the site for the PGA Championship. So it's pretty much a brand new field compared to what we saw last week. Not a ton of overlap with the guys that are playing. But yeah, I mean, for me, if I was on tour, I think I'd like to get hot, especially at a course like this where you're going to go low and get a little confidence heading into the PGA, even though the courses should play completely different. You're going to go, and that's one other thing. I mean, you're going to go from a super easy course to a super hard course next week because they're going to have it set up to be absolutely diabolical next week, which is what we love to see. We want some carnage.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the two different schools of thought. We're going to have a different player pool this weekend than what we saw last weekend. Talk about the previous winners of this course, of this tournament, and then sort of preview or go in a little bit deeper who we're going to be looking at this weekend.
Yep. So just like the Wells Fargo last week, 2020 was COVID canceled for this tournament. 2019 was Sung Kang. He shot minus 23. Aaron Wise before that, minus 23 again. And then 2017, it was Billy Horschel at minus 12, but that was actually a different golf course than the golf course before the golf course now. So this was 2 courses ago. This place has kind of bounced around. They couldn't find a home for this golf tournament for a while, but they actually did sign 5 years for TPC Craig Ranch. So hopefully, we get some course history here in the next couple of years. And, this is kind of their home. But yeah, Billy Horschel minus 12. And then before that, Sergio beat out Brooks in a playoff at minus 15 in 2016.
So with this being a new course, how does that affect your model and what you're looking at when plugging in some of these head-to-heads? The course history isn't necessarily there. The tournament history may be there. What are you factoring in this weekend?
Yeah, so the model itself is going to be purely course history based. So for me, at least, like I'll still have the matchups where you can plug in, and it'll really just be based off of the golfer's recent form. It won't calculate anything for course history. So I'm going to be taking this week off for head-to-head matchups just because I do have that threshold of 6 rounds being played at a golf course in order for me to, take advantage of the model. So the results are still in there if you wanted to use just based on recent form, because I mean, everybody is kind of on a even playing field, given the fact that nobody's played here before. But you just don't know how certain golfers respond to the course. So I'm going to personally be sitting out. But as far as looking at, outrights, there's different things where you're looking at, recent form, how they're trending, how they've been playing at the past, few tournaments, similar type courses, things like that.
For sure. So, just to reiterate, the model is out there. It is available for you to use if you're listening and maybe you don't value course history as much. Maybe you do, but you still want some skin in the game. So you're going to use the model to spit out some results based on recent form. It is available to you. Just know with that little caveat that Tyler will be sitting out. Tyler's our golf expert here at SpoFi. And so if he's sitting out, it's probably a good sign to, I will probably be still going in on some outrights. And I'm sure you will too, Tyler, but perhaps for the matchups, be sitting this one out this week as well.
Yep, exactly. And like I said, hopefully over the next 5 years, they have the shot leak data here. So 2023, we're back for matchups during the AT&T Byron Nelson.
For sure. So speaking of some outrights, I know we were close last weekend, but talk a little bit about some of the outrights you might like this weekend.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning of this, we were kind of knocking on the door with Abe Ancer last week. So he had a solo second place. Patrick Reed tied for 6th. Emiliano Grillo tied for 14th. Keegan tied 18. So it doesn't matter. We didn't win. But for this week, I am going to start off the card towards the top. I mean, I'm not going to take really, into account the top of the field. I mean, I'm not going to be on guys like, obviously Dustin Johnson actually withdrew. But I'm not going to take Spieth at 11-1. I'm not going to take Bryson at 8-1. I'm not going to take, Berger getting up there, but 17-1. I mean, this dude last year at this time was like 60, 70, 80-1. So I'm not going to take any of the extremely top of the board, which isn't atypical for me. I mean, I'm typically avoiding the top of the board just because you shouldn't have implied odds to win a golf tournament like 15% of the time. That just doesn't check out.
And you're not going to realize like your true return or the value even in playing some of these outrights, especially if the odds are priced that way, because the reality is you're just not going to win that frequently. So
right, exactly. And I don't want to risk a whole unit to meet my 8 to 10 unit, how I risk to win. So that's just a little too much for me. But gonna start off the card with Matty Fitzpatrick. Dude is really hot right now. I mean, 5 top 11s in his last 6 tournaments. Euro guys always seem to do well in Texas, kind of similar to how they play in Florida. Always, I don't know, for one reason or another, popping off in Texas. So we're gonna ride that wave, but also playing extremely well over his last 6 tournaments.
Does your model factor that in?
It doesn't.
Here we have a European guy playing in Texas or Florida. How many strokes gained for that?
Well, I guess in theory it would factor that in just because it would be part of his strokes gained base numbers compared to his baseline. Not this week, but that Ladner, you'd be surprised. That's actually something I've thought about putting in.
There you go.
There's a few different things on the checklist because with any model, the market should eventually catch up with you. But that's why you got to consistently, keep evolving it, keep adding to it, keep, finding your edge. So there's a few different things on the checklist of items that I'd like to add in. Next on the card would be Will Zalatoris, 28-1. We're getting a similar number to the last week. He was 33-1 in a little bit weaker field. So everything that I said about Will Zalatoris is just on a 1 week delay. Still love the guy. He chunk slam last week, missed the cut. What I saw was, he just completely lost his irons. He gained 0 strokes on approach. Just to give you an idea, his last 7 tournaments, he gained 3.4 strokes, 4.6 strokes, 4.6 strokes, 3.8, 3.4, and 4.6 strokes on approach. So for him to go out, drop a donut is not repeatable, not going to happen again. So I am on the Will Zalatoris bounce back. Like I said, lost his iron last week. His putter didn't, do anything to help him out. So I mean, he's only lost strokes on approach once since August. So not expecting that to happen again.
Yeah, so like true recent form, meaning just his last tournament, might not be great, but when you actually look a little bit deeper, last week was the standout. Last week was the anomaly, right. And you expect him to get back to his true recent form this weekend.
Absolutely, exactly. And kind of actually the exact opposite of the next guy I'm going to talk about. I had Sam Burns on here. I've been debating on him back and forth, 35-1. Guy is a birdie machine. That's kind of what we want to target at this golf course, at this tournament, coming off the Valspar victory. So in that sense right there, Ladner, like, okay, he's coming off a victory. Like that's his most recent form. He'd be a good guy to target. And I was thinking about it, I can't lie, just because of the fact that he does make a ton of birdies. But I noticed something. He gained 9 strokes with his putter. And, in golf, putting is it's the most random aspect of golf. There's little predictive value in it unless you're one of the most elite guys, with the flat stick, which, Sam Burns is absolutely not. He gained 9.1 strokes putting. So
again, something that's probably not repeatable over a consistent period of time.
Exactly. And he lost strokes 3.3, 1.4, 1.4.8 in his last 4 tournaments before that. Gained 6.4, popped off 3rd at the Genesis. So, really kind of living and dying by his putter. And that is not a guy that we want to target. So I am not going to be taking Sam Burns, but I did want to talk about it just because he is coming off the victory and might look like a prime candidate, especially at 35-1. And then rounded out, we got Mark Leishman at 35-1, coming off a 5th at the Masters, had 2 missed cuts before that. But I'm not worried about Leishman, his form. He's a guy that, he's always going to pop up towards the top of the leaderboard at random tournaments like this. So I think it's a good spot for him, especially at 35-1. And then, like I was saying about Matthew Fitzpatrick, we got Thomas Peters, another Euro guy. Hasn't played in the U.S. In a month and a half, but it's been playing well overseas, trending in the right direction. And then we got 4 absolute bomb. I guess 80-1 wouldn't be a bomb. Taylor Gooch, another same with Sam Burns. This guy just makes birdies. He's a guy you want to target at a course like this. And then 3 more birdie makers are at 125-1, 250-1, and 320-1. We got Johnny Vegas, Mr. First Round Leader himself. Guy's always in the first group because he plays quick. And he is almost always a threat to be a first round leader. So if you want a fun little prop bet, wouldn't mind that, whatever number you can find on Johnny Vegas to be that first round leader. Vincent Whaley, 250-1, young guy that's coming up, shooting up the world golf ranking as well. Another birdie maker. And then lastly, like I said, 320-1, Bryce Garnett. You're going to find a trend here. Another birdie maker at that point. Price point 320-1, I will take a shot with any of his, downside that he brings and hoping to get a nice large outright.
Nice. I'm going to go ahead and add one to your card here. Not a birdie maker, 200-1 odds. The resident SpoFi golfer, that would be Doc Redman himself. So he's actually got better odds this week than he did last week. And it's definitely because the field's a little bit weaker. And because he's just, he's due. So that's what we're going with for Doc.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
What would be a tee sheet without a mention of our favorite golfers? So
yeah, we're gonna ignore the fact that he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 missed cuts in his last 10. But like you said, whenever he doesn't miss the cut, he makes it. So
yeah, that's right.
you got to give yourself a chance.
It's actually a fact. And here's another prop bet. If you can find a prop bet where it gives you good odds on if Doc Redman doesn't miss the cut that he'll make the cut, I'm all over it.
Yeah, that's 100%.
So last week we did some one and done selections as well for you were giving it for the Wells Fargo Championship last week. Let's have some one and done selections for this weekend.
Right. So another back-to-back week of $8.1 million in the prize pool, second consecutive week with this amount. As far as the chalk, I feel like we might see John Rahm as the chalk. I mean, guys at the top of the leaderboard, no DJ. So you're kind of getting him at a discount since, that's one of the guys that's at the top of the board that's not going to be playing. I think Scotty Scheffler, if you hadn't already used him, is going to be pretty chalky just because, Texas roots, guys probably played the course more than a couple times. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just assuming so. My play is, if you didn't use him last week, it would be Will Zalatoris, going back to it. So everything that I said about him, like I said, not expecting the strokes gain on approach to repeat. So that would be my one and done selection if he's not already used. And a contrarian play would be Thomas Pieters, coming over from overseas. Again, hasn't played in about a month and a half over here. But that would be my contrarian play if you're looking to kind of get different and shoot up the leaderboard, take advantage of a underwhelming play.
Are you in any of these one and done tournaments?
Yeah. So I'm in the Pat Mayo. He started like a fantasy golf championship one. We're about middle of the pack. I went on with my buddy Jordan, who's in our Top Shot conglomerate.
And so you guys are in the middle right now, looking to make a push?
Yep, exactly.
What final thoughts do you have for this Byron Nelson weekend, this Byron Nelson episode of the Tee Sheet?
I'm just excited to see the course. Like I said, debutante course, all the pictures that I saw, videos that I saw, like flyovers, look really, really nice. I mean, it's a TPC course, so it's going to look pretty. They actually have I don't know if it's the 16th or the 17th, but they tried to replicate the stadium course, stadium hole, where there's just, bleachers and, grandstands all the way down, where it's kind of like a mini stadium that you're playing this golf hole in. So I know they tried to replicate that. I don't know what that will look like, but I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And I'm excited to see some pretty low scores as well, some -15s and 20s like you were talking about, because I know we're here for carnage, but let's save that for the next weekend. And let's have some exciting and some good low scores this weekend. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Definitely have carnage coming up with that, and then Torrey Pines South course for the U.S. Open. I know we saw Torrey Pines earlier this year, but it's going to play a hell of a lot different than it will in June.
Yeah, needless to say, there'll be some more juicy Tee Sheet episodes coming out.
Yep.
With some of the tournaments that are coming up shortly. So thank you guys again for watching. Head over to Twitter, get in on the giveaway, subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow our podcasts, follow our socials at SpoFi HQ. Again, on Discord, on Twitter is the SpoFi golf model for this week. If you guys want to use it, head in there, check us out, drop in, say hi, all that good stuff. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you guys in the next one.